you can go ahead and let people in, Anna.
Okay.
Hello, hello, welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning, Becky H. Do you know, and Becky L. Do you know that there's 3 of you Beckys here? Do you
Wow.
travel in packs? Is that what happens?
No, I don't know.
Well, that's why I started putting the H because there's more Beckys popping up all over the place.
I've never had that experience before. That's great.
Well, I could go by Rebecca, but another friend of mine and I agree that the only time we ever were addressed that way was when we were in trouble.
All right. So it does not have good connotations in your nervous system, right?
No, not so much.
I hear you. Welcome, Dave. Welcome, Alan. Welcome, James. Great to see you. Hey, Anne Marie. Welcome, Carl. Morning, Jeff.
Hello, good morning.
Welcome, Lise.
Sorry, hi Lee.
Hi, Lise.
Sorry about that.
Hey, everybody.
Hi, Lenny.
Hey,
Hey.
it's me.
It's you.
Yay.
Yay. There's Maria. Hi.
Hi, Maria.
Oh, I got better though. I said
Oh,
Maria. Now it's
absolutely. That's what you mean.
Maria. Right.
Maria, yeah.
Hi, welcome. Hi,
Good
Linda.
morning.
Hi, Dara. Hi, Connor. Such an incredible group of people. Oh my goodness. Gonna give it another.
So how many signed up for the class?
We have, including me, we have exactly 36 people.
Awesome.
Yeah,
gosh.
that's great.
That says a lot for you.
It's a really great group. It's like we're high vibing it here with this particular group. It's really exciting.
Awesome.
All right. A couple people did tell me they're going to be a couple minutes late. So I think we can get started. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Couple of just quick housekeeping items. There's 2 support folks in this course. One is Anna, who you'll see there as a co-host, and she can help you with technical questions and issues. And there's Damon Sean, who's also co-hosting and can help with any number of things. So there's 3 of us here to support the process, which is very, very good. For those of you who are on my course 2 weeks ago, I was like, yeah, doing it all with Anna. All right, still some people getting here. Just like I want to invite just to take a look around this Zoom room, and these are the people you're about to fall in love with, because that's sort of what happens. And we're already starting off with a very stellar, like a really amazing group of people. And we won't want to leave each other at the end of 13 weeks. I'm already feeling it. I'm already feeling the group vibe here. It's really sweet. And I just want to start off by saying, like, this course is a long sort of journey for me, and in some ways a dream come true to have this sort of embodiment-based deep dive mystery school style format into end of life preparedness. And I just want to thank you for trusting me and for taking the risk. And I've done this class in a 2-week format and a 4-week format and a 6-week format. And every single time I do it in those formats, I'm like, it's just not enough time. And we just want to go deeper, and we just really need to sink in. And I'm guessing I'll also feel that about this, but we have way more spaciousness to really deepen and explore and feel in our hearts and our bodies. And I just am so grateful for your willingness to do that with me. And I think it's going to be reaping really rich rewards. So I will gonna do a little screen sharing on and off throughout our time together. So I like to start each week with a quote, and this one is from Rilke, the great mystic poet Rilke. And he says, "There is death in life, and it astonishes me that we pretend to ignore this. Death whose unforgiving presence we experience with each change we survive. We must learn to die slowly. We must learn to die. That is all of life. We must learn to die slowly. We must learn to die. That is all of life." And you'll know any mystics worth their salt really can cut through our BS and go straight to blowing us open. And that's who I hope to bring into our quotes. If you have quotes to share and you want to share them with me, I'm a big collector of death quotes. And Rilke's one of the best. So here we are today on this practical, mystical, biological, somatic, which I want to say more about, esoteric and very human journey to talk about death. And I'm going to keep bringing us back to the wisdom that resides in the body. And we're going to get to the principles. Some of you, most of you maybe have watched the principles video, and where I talk at length about embodiment. But I want to say a little bit here right at the get-go about this biological somatic piece, because this is a great litmus test. You are the ultimate authority, and your body is the ultimate way you're going to know how this feels to you. Whatever I say, whatever others say, whatever you're invited to, the question is, how does it land for you in your own system? And that's really the way we want to be moving through life. And part of what this course is encouraging and where we get to practice is, how do we move with the wisdom that is inherent in this existence? So if something doesn't resonate for you, throw it out. And if it does, and it brings you more alive in your body, then do more of it. So that's the ultimate. You are the ultimate wisdom barometer. And another component of the biological somatic piece here is that I am very steeped in and learning myself in the biological intelligence that you formed this body. We each formed this whole body, which, if we knew anything about embryology, we would have no questions about death. If we could do that, and if we could trust this body to have its heartbeat and to heal the wounds, then we know how to die. So the flow of nature and the body intelligence is sort of what we're steeping in. And we'll talk a little bit more about the other principles that sort of guide us. But this is a really important part of what's going on here. And so to that end, I bring each week sort of an invitation, a meditation or a contemplation and on some component of the body and how it relates to our intelligence and the cosmic intelligence. So this week I have a really amazing meditation for you, or contemplation or information about the body. And it's about fascia. And the more we learn about the body, the more awe-inspired we all are and realize how sacred this system really is. And when you get into fascia, and if you get geeky about fascia and you start sort of poking around online and you start watching videos, you'll experience people who have almost a religious fanaticism about what fascia means. And I'm hoping to share some of that exuberance with you in this brief moment of meditation. So I invite you to tune in to your body. Eyes open, eyes closed, whatever feels the best for you. And just tune in to the fascial matrix within you. You may not even know what that is. That's okay. I'm going to tell you. It's the connective tissue that covers every part of the body, the muscles, the organs, and the vessels. From the most minute and microcosmic, within the fibers and layers of the muscles, within the cells, all of the skin. The bone is made of crystallized fascia. The tendons are dense and twisted fascia. Every tube in our body are formed with a fabric of fascia. All of the dura of the nerves is fascia, and the wrapping of all the blood vessels is fascia. It's like a fabric within us. It keeps everything together. It holds us like a big hug. And yet it also keeps everything separate and in its particular space. There's no beginning and no end of this fascia. It's a continuum. I've heard it described as a web or a net or a matrix. And it's made of this remarkable substance called collagen, which scientists are describing as liquid crystals. And it's got some amazing properties. Sometimes they're hard and ordered, like bone. Sometimes they're soft and elastic and springy. And they have these properties to them, like the fascia does and collagen does, which is, it's a semiconductor. It converts energy. It's piezoelectric, meaning when we apply pressure, it lights up. It's pyroelectric, and it's thermoelectric. So basically we are electromagnetic beings because of our fascial system. And that helps us both connect to the earth, which is electromagnetic, and the cosmos. What they're discovering about fascia now is that it has 250 million sensory neurons. So it sort of rivals the nervous system as a sensory perception. It's the architecture of our senses. It basically defines what it is to be human. Back in the day, when scientists were first learning about autopsy and understanding the body, they would just take the fascia and sort of pull it out of the way, and they thought it was like packing material. Like, oh, it's just paper cushioning all this other important stuff. But now that sort of paradigm is getting flipped on its head, which is that the muscles are just there to carry the fascia, and the strength is actually in the fascia. The founder of modern osteopathy, Andrew Taylor Still, calls it the living waters in which dwells the soul. If you took everything out of the body that wasn't fascia, it would be the ghost form of us. And one of the most famous myofascial release therapists says that it's really the mediator between form and spirit. And because it carries these electrical impulses, and because it's made of photons, it's basically light. We're made of light. And we've heard spiritual traditions, ancient traditions talk about that, how we're made of light. And now we're starting to sort of see the structure of that. I could say more about fascia, but hopefully this has brought some awe and aliveness to you around how you're made and the magic and miracle and awe of how you're made. Welcome, people who are just joining. Welcome, welcome. Just finished a meditation. Another component of embodiment that I really want to bring in and want to elicit your help with during this 13 weeks is what I'm calling the pause. And I've created some slides throughout the curriculum to remind myself, but I also want to empower you all to be able to remind me and remind us to call a pause. And we'll start to get familiar with the group flow and the group wave pattern and the group needs, and we may need a pause sometimes. So here are some suggestions about what to do in the midst of a pause. Look away from your computer and gaze at something else. Out the window. You could take a breath. You could notice something happening in your body. You could shake something out. Your arms, your legs, your torso, your head. Whew. You could close your eyes. And you could look around. All of these things help the nervous system orient, settle, and integrate. I want to take a stop there and just see how everyone's doing. Hi, Satya. Hi, Carla. Hi, Hannah. Hi, Marilyn. Hi, everyone who just got here. Baba. Such a great group. I've been saying that over and over. It's really wonderful. Hi, Heather. Any questions so far? Any contemplations? Any offerings? Just getting warmed up. Jeff, go ahead.
Is the word fascia a medical term or something else?
It is, yeah.
Oh,
It is, yeah. So each week we're going to be exploring some facet of this awe-inspiring body that we are currently all inhabiting. Who knows for how much longer, but this is part of what happens when we really lean in to death, is we realize how remarkable it is that we're here at all. So one of the awareness is how to bring more awe into our lives. Okay, I'm going to keep going here. So today, share with you again. Today, our topic is death as teacher, death as gift. And we're laying the foundation for all that we're going to do together over the next 13 weeks. And this is something that's a bit aspirational, meaning we may not all be starting there. And it's something we are being invited to lean into and live into. One of the important pieces for today, and hopefully that will continue on each week that I mentioned in the preliminaries, was setting up a ritual space. And I really love that small act of ritual. I have my my candle here, which is a beautiful skull, beeswax skull, and my vultures, my condors, stuffed condors near me, which I will talk a lot about condors in this time together, because it's sort of one of my favorite death archetypes. But death really, when death happens in our lives, it takes us out of ordinary reality. It takes us out of the day-to-day. And so having this course to come to each week, which Mary Marty called the Deep Dive Tuesday, is an opportunity for us to have that time out of mind. And, you know, modern culture is really coming at us all the time. So this is just a brief invitation to be in ritual. Because ritual is really part of courting the mystery. Not everyone's a ritual person. You know, I grew up Catholic, and I've been trying to unwind my own, I would say, spiritual trauma most of my life. That was sort of rooted in oppression for me in my family system and in the era that I grew up in. So I'm kind of a low ritual type of gal. But candles are a sweet way for me to bring that in, that reminder. And when you're lighting your candle, it's an opportunity to maybe review your intentions, check in with a spirit guide if you have one, invoke the qualities of creativity and curiosity. I'd say call on the energy of death positivity, or another archetype that you resonate with. So any of those things are welcome. Another important ritual aspect of what we're up to this year is really based in earth-based traditions, and we're at the Wheel of the Year, right? This is the Wheel of the Year, and the blue represents the quarterly holidays, so the solstices and the equinoxes that mark, you know, the big turning points of seasons. And then we have the cross-quarterly holidays, which are in red. And this is a beautiful ritual container that's holding us, because we're starting here right around equinox. So we're at fall equinox this coming weekend, or this week, I guess the 20th or the 21st. And then we're going all the way until solstice. So that is holding us in 1/4 turn of the year. And that really does create a container. And right smack in the middle of our time together is Halloween, what often in the West we call Halloween, or what the Gaelic folks call Samhain, or the Southern Hemisphere people tend to celebrate as the Day of the Dead. So that's falling like right around the beginning of November, and that's right smack in the middle of our time, which has been intentional. And we'll be able to look at that as a demarcation point of like, how are we celebrating the time of the death time of the year? Okay. Another ritual that I really love to do in this course, and I would invite us to, I would invite us to really embrace this if it feels aligned, is to share about an ancestor. And ancestors in this context mean anyone who has is a beloved in your life that has passed beyond this physical incarnation. They don't have to be blood related, and they don't have to have been older than you in any way. That they have preceded you in death, and they are paving the way. And this is a beloved dead of mine, an ancestor of mine. His name is Norm Self. And he was a dear, dear friend and part of a tribe of people that I have been connected with for a decade and a half. And he died in November on 11/11/23, when many of his friends were gathered together in a training program, the last weekend of our training program, and he died that weekend. And I was a significant part of his process, in that I was one of his caregivers for months, and one of the people that was sorting out all his financial, physical, banking, living situation details, which, if anybody's done any of that, can be quite time consuming and complex. And this man had a really important impact in my life, and for so many ways. But I'm wondering if this is a good time for folks to maybe, how many people are interested in sharing about their own beloved dead? Let me just see your hands, if that feels alive for people. Okay, great. So Anna, why don't we do a breakout room with 2 folks each, 3 if you have overflow. And here's an opportunity for you to share about a beloved dead. And a couple of prompts are how this person's life impacted you and how this person's death impacted you. And if we don't have a ton of time, then maybe focus really on their death and how their death impacted you. And then I think what we'll do is we'll do about 7 minutes. So you have a few minutes each to share, and it's, usually folks want more time, and it's always a balance. Let me know when you're ready, Anna.
Okay.
Any questions before sharing your beloved dead with others? You'll have a random pairing in the breakout room. Any other questions? Okay, great. See you on the other side. Does anyone want to share how that breakout room was for you? And I'm going to mute a couple of you. There we go. Anyone have anything they want to share?
I'd love to hop on and just tune in with a piece that came through for Marilyn and myself just towards the end of our conversation, which is about the distinct experiences of losing people that we love suddenly, and in some cases traumatically, as compared to really being there for like a physical decline or a drawn out illness, and that hospicing someone towards their end of life experience. I think we think about loss sometimes as just this like particular experience, and don't always think about the nuances of how different types of loss and different transitions themselves impact the people left behind, and obviously the people crossing over as well. So yeah, we our conversation got cut off kind of right in the middle of reflecting around that. So it was something I just wanted to presence because it's very alive.
Yes, thank you so much. And I think that's worth a pause. Just feel that together. Yeah. That's a really, really good point to bring up, one of the principles, which is all parts of us are welcome. And we're going to find a way to hold it all. And I think it's worth saying at this juncture that just because I am a proponent for death positivity does not mean I am idealistic or I'm romantic about what death means. That it can be traumatizing and tragic and shocking and horrifying and painful and really hard. And I think that being able to hold that, right? Being able to hold that here, because life can also be that way, right? And here we are on this journey. Here we are, Pema Chodron, the great Buddhist nun, quotes one of her teachers when she says, life is like setting sail on a boat that you know is going to go out to sea and sink, right? Like that's life. We are all on this journey that's going to end in death. The huge difference is that we don't spend any time talking about this eventuality. And so thank you for bringing that really tender piece in, Hannah. And I also want to present other components too, which is there may be people here in this room on this journey who have some kind of terminal diagnosis, or they may be working with a beloved that's dying, or just walked someone home this very year, or may not have really any connection to death much of their life. So we have this entire spectrum of humanity here, including folks dealing, like what you're saying, with traumatic or tragic experiences with death. And all of that is welcome. We are intelligent enough to hold that. And I'm sorry you got cut off right at the end of that conversation. Maybe you and Marilyn can bridge that somehow. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else want to share? I love seeing you all in your spaces, just looking around and seeing what your backgrounds are and feeling a little bit of your essence with your world there. Alan, you're the traveler. I see you in your vehicle. And Lenny, I see you in your garden. Oh, that's so beautiful. Okay. Yeah, so our beloved dead, this another intention or another invitation for your weekly ritual with your candle is that you can bring a different beloved each week, or you can have them all there the whole time, or you can invite yourself to create an altar with your ancestors there. I have an ancestor altar that lives up year round, and then I do sort of pull different ancestors down to be with me in my meditations or in this course. And they want to, I sort of ask them who wants to be with me, and really, have that beloved along for the week. So that's another way to weave in death literacy, death conversation, death presencing into our lives. And this is I have a little picture of my ancestor altar. It's not quite, this isn't the altar I have at the moment, but this is the altar I had for years. And this wisdom comes from a teacher of mine, a mentor of mine, named Soban Fusome, who she herself is now an ancestor. She came from the Dagara tradition in Western Africa, and she taught a bunch of us Westerners about how to deal with grief and how to deal with the dead and how to work with ancestors. And so that's where, you know, I really got this tradition of like anyone who's passed into the spirit world is a beloved ancestor at this point. And how, you know, just another component of like, how did I get into this work? And I'll just tell you briefly, many of you have heard this story, but I'll tell you briefly, and then you'll hear my story woven throughout the 13 weeks together. I was fortunate to learn from the dying within the context of a village. And over the course of 2 years, from 2016 to 2018, we had 6 deaths at our eco village in Western North Carolina, the place that I called home for 2 decades at that point. And you know, these deaths, and in some cases, the generous folks who journeyed to those deaths, really gave me and several of us an opportunity to step into really close proximity to the entire process. Those of you who took a recent course with me through the Intentional Communities movement really got a sort of deeper dive than we're going to do here into what does it look like for a collective to come together and tend death. But you know, my experiences were everything from preparing paperwork to working with hospice and sitting with the dying, collaborating with families on all aspects, tending to our beloveds while they were declining, creating home vigils, home funerals, home burials. Of those 6 people that died, I think it was 3 of them declined at home, 4 of them declined at home, 3 of them died at home. We had all home funerals, all home burials. And so it was a real snippet into what not that long ago we all did, because really funeral homes didn't start popping up until the Industrial Revolution, and that was only in big cities, right? So we're talking not a whole lot more than 100 years ago, we all cared for our dead. That's you know, the dead were cared for within the home, within the community, within the church, within the family, whatever that was for us. So living in a village for the last 30 years taught me a lot about so many of the practical aspects of life. And this, you know, I think some of you heard me say this last week, which is I had been in community but 20 years at that point, and going through this death process with the community, I've never seen anything bring a group of people so close together. And now I think the opposite can also be true, that a death can tear a group apart. But this is part of what we're here to look at. How do we redesign? How do we reclaim some of these systems? And so out of that process, I sort of got really catalyzed myself into my death philosophies. And I decided I really, you know, I was doing Tantra education, I was doing sustainability education, organic growing education. I was very deep into the food systems work at that point. But I really decided that this was the sort of center core, that, you know, sort of death was a portal to so much. And, you know, I really came to the place where I'm working with these sort of central pillars in my own philosophies. Take them if they feel yummy to you. But for me, I sort of start from this place of death as teacher, death as gift, and that it can be a big contribution to our lives. And that within us, we have an evolutionary pattern, not only that knows how to die, but to care for the dead and care for the dying. And I believe it can be a big blessing for us, for the dying and for those involved, especially when we're able to receive the love and support from others, and especially when we have some relaxation and acceptance of death, and especially when we can sort of stay guided by the liminal space, by our own essence. The second death philosophy that I came to really is that we are the pioneers in a new culture around death. Because our larger culture, most of us, when I say our culture, I'm assuming that most of us are from Western modern culture. And it says often that it's something to be feared, something to be avoided and denied, and certainly that it can even be implied as a failure, a medical failure in some situations. So we have a lot of misinformation, or a lack of information, or a narrow or limited understanding of what's possible. We don't have very many mentors, and at the same time, this is an incredible opportunity for us to pioneer what else is possible, which is the third pillar. What else is possible, since we are working with a canvas and we're saying we want something different. What else do we want to look towards? We have a few bright lights out in the world doing really great stuff. And can we build on that? Can we go from there? So when the topic of this week is death as teacher, death as gift. And, as I sort of guide what I think of as these practical mysteries of end of life preparation, I assume that we're all coming from some death denial, death illiteracy, death negativity, and death phobia. And maybe even, as Hannah was saying, some tragic or traumatic experiences around death. And what that means for most of us is that we haven't been around dying people or a dead body. We haven't really engaged with the process of tending to the dead. We haven't really discussed death very much, and we haven't really contemplated or prepared for our own death. But what I want to say is that this is not how it has to be. This is not how other cultures do it. This is not true of other times. And it doesn't need to be true of us. So here we are on this journey together. Let me stop here and take a little pause and see if anybody else has a heart bubbling up that wants to say something. Yeah, I was saying, yeah, Damon Sean.
Yeah, as you were sharing about death as gift and a teacher and the death illiteracy of our culture, the only person that I had the opportunity at this point to be in direct relationship with that was facing death was my grandmother, who's also one of the dearest ones to me. And I just remembered when it was imminent. She knew she was really sick, and they were only giving her like 30 days. And we had this moment where we were alone in her living room, and she was a deeply religious woman and believed deeply in the spiritual afterlife and being part of God, but she was just terrified. Like, she said, I don't know how I can handle this. And I just remember also like wanting to be able to soothe her and connect with her and not really knowing what to say or how to be with her in a way that both held space for her fear, but could also help her open up to the gift and the opportunity for that change in her life. So yeah, I'm glad I'm here so I can continue to learn and grow in those areas myself.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that does bring up a good point that I wanted to share, which is we are going to be talking about how to be with grief, how to be with fear, and how to be with shock. And I've put those a bit later in the course because as any healing tradition or trauma unwinding process will teach you, is you need to be resourced first. And the first thing we're going to do is be resourced, and we're going to transition our nervous system from death is the enemy to death is the friend, right? And when we get that kind of solidity in our systems, we can then start to work with and really understand how to, that fear is also a gift, that shock and grief are also gifts, right? But we're not going to start there. And I love your example, Damon Sean, because when folks have not been in a situation where they have adequately integrated a relationship with death, there they are on their deathbeds, terrified, right? And that is tragic. That is heartbreaking. And there's very little one can do at that point to turn the ship around, right? Because that you're sort of how much time do you have to sort of unwind some of that belief system? You know, what kind of spaciousness does the person have to really go in and figure out who they're guiding, where their guiding essence is? So that's, you know, and I'm guessing Damon Sean's grandmother at that time and in that era basically had a heaven and hell mindset, right? And these were very limited understandings of what's possible, right? And how we can think about things. So yeah, I'm grateful for the example, and I'm sorry your grandma had to go through that kind of fear. I wanted to speak to, I think Hannah had asked what I had said, and I called myself, and maybe all of us, practical mystics, right? And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, and I can probably do that now. But the reason that I love death contemplation and preparation as a sort of mystery school portal is because the mind can't really argue, right? Like we can't really wiggle our way out, you know, of this. Many other paths to the infinite are lined with lots of defenses, but there's not a lot of arguing with death. And, you know, I think what we start to do when we sit in this space together is we start to understand that we have a couple of choices. We can trust and surrender, or we can kick and scream, and we'll probably do some of both. But at least we have we start to get literate about these pathways. Yeah, I'm gonna switch to this slide because it's sort of rolling right now, and it's not what I was gonna share at the moment, but I think I had this sense you were gonna be my wing woman, Hannah. Like, I don't know, Hannah is just, anyway, tapped in. This image is the caduceus, and many people probably recognize it as the symbol of medicine. And it's two serpents wrapped around a staff or a pole. And there's lots of symbolism and meaning here. That pole is the center or the midline of our bodies, and the serpents is our life force, to say it super simple. In many traditions, in ancient Egypt and in Hindu traditions, it represents Kundalini in many contexts. But here I'm using it as an integration of opposing forces. And this is what I'm calling the practical and the mystical. The practical and the mystical. That could be life and death, or yin and yang, or left brain and right brain, or heaven and earth, right? These snakes represent not just forces that are passively coexisting, but that they need each other. This is an active unification. We need the practical and we need the mystical in this mystery school. And further, this symbol represents transformation and renewal. So that's a really, I'm going to stop here with the slides and just say that when we look at our 13 weeks coming up, we're going to be alternating weeks. And part of the reason I'm so excited for this 13 weeks is that we get to do both. In the past, I've condensed it down to the practical with leaving a little bit of the mystical in, and it was never full for me. It was never integrated enough for me. Because once we start looking at the practical aspects of what it means to plan and prepare for our own death, all of the mystical starts to open and come in. And without the practical, the mystical is ungrounded. So this is the marriage of both. Let's just let that settle. Inviting a pause. Feeling our bodies, taking a breath, looking around. Nice stretching, Carl. Great. Shaking something. Mm. Linny, did you want to share?
Thank you for that pause. I was remembering just a few minutes ago, you used the beautiful word liminal. I think referring to the space between, and I just wondered if you could say more about it.
Yeah, I think there's many terms along those lines. Some of you may know some, in my shamanic tradition training, we refer to it as between the wick and the flame. Right, that eye of the needle. Yeah. It is, it is the place. Oh gosh, so many different spiritual traditions describe it differently. I think Christianity describes it as being, how do they say Christianity being part of the world, but not of the world, but something like that. Does somebody have that phrase for me? Karen, you have that? Or Carla?
In the world, but
the
not
world,
of it.
but not of the world.
Thank you. In the world, but not of the world, right? It's this sort of like, it's this koan riddle for the mind, right? And the kinds of ways that we are between the wick and the flame, it scrambles the hemispheres, right? Because something like that, our mind is never going to understand, but part of us does. And that's the nature of being in the mystical. Other thoughts here? How are people feeling like about a 3-minute break? The pause seemed like it was really needed, and we can get up and stretch and do our thing and be back in roughly 3 minutes. Yeah, great. So I'll start our time back from break with a Mary Oliver quote. She's another one tapped into the causal realms. Every day I see or hear something that more or less kills me with delight, that leaves me like a needle in the haystack of light. Every day I see or hear something that more or less kills me with delight, that leaves me like a needle in the haystack of light. If you're finding your way back, that's fine. I'm going to circle back briefly to our practicals and just say I'm about to go into some practicals. And I want to name that there's probably a spectrum of folks here, some who will get every single task done on the task list towards the journey of end of life preparation, and some will do none of those external tasks. And they are equally as relevant journeys. Some people don't do well with structured homework outside of class, and that's fine. I will be speaking to structured oriented folks because that's part of what we're up to here. And at the same time, I encourage you to not feel pressure if it's not aligned for you. This is both a head process and a body-heart process. Some people take this class and just do the internal components for the first time, and that's fine. Some people are really focused on the external and not doing as much of the internal. Again, it's all leading us to the same place. And contemplating, dreaming, discussing, feeling is all part of what's considered integration. That's, again, it's the yin and the yang. So a few practicals about the structure. We're 2¼ hours each week and potentially 3 to 5 on your own. I'm going to give you both yin and yang tasks every week. Feel into what's the best for you. We're going to figure out buddies today. And it's a really integral part of what happens here. And I'm going to talk about that more. But talking to your buddy each week is a real anchor. One of the principles is integration. I talked about that in the video. It's like, as adults, when especially who have so much access to so much amazing stuff in the world, the more we sit with something, the more we're able to integrate it. And we all have our particular styles, like learning styles, like auditory, kinesthetic, visual, verbal. We also probably integrate in those ways. So I really do integrate a lot personally by verbalizing, by having conversations. Other people might be more of a journal integrator. So find your integration. This is the beautiful schedule that we have, and I'm like every week I'm more excited about the week than the last, and it just keeps building on each other. Things are shaping and shifting and coming through and moving and changing, but it probably won't change a whole lot at this point. And like I mentioned, it's going to alternate between sort of practical, mystical. Today, we're really grounding our foundation, our principles, getting our buddies, having our curiosity hopefully heightened. Designing your sacred decline next week is going to be some focus on healthcare agent, patient advocacy. We're going to death care teams, how to talk to our families, starting the paperwork process. Week 3 is cultivating the qualities that make for a good death. This is really great, how to curate the qualities. There's some universal qualities, and there might be some qualities that are specific to us. Death contemplations and death humor. So if you've got some death jokes, bring them to week 3. Courting the mystical, songs, chants, journaling prompts, and poems. Honoring the container with your values. This is what kind of medical interventions each person wants and doesn't want. Pain management, alternative endings, being at choice. This is a really big value in end of life work, being at choice. And you don't have to write all this down. It's all on the resources page on the website, which I'm going to go to in a minute. Embodied living and dying is week 5. Falling in love with existence. We're going to talk about surfing the waves of existence. Death-informed practices and archetypes of death. This is like, I'm so excited about this. I've never been able to have enough time to do archetypes. This is really exciting. Week 6 is a roadmap for self and others. So how do we put this paperwork all together in one place that people know what we want when the time comes? And we're going to talk about the 3 different buckets of paperwork. There's a lot there. Week 7 is, and then we have, week 7 is tuning into the soul's blueprint. So what does it look like? What is embodied dying? What is trauma release? What does it look like to do psychedelics in the practice of dying? This is really big right now, and we're so blessed to have so much access to this stuff. There's such a psychedelic resurgence right now, and if used in the right context and container, these are death practices. They prepare us. And then we have Day of the Dead, which is falling right in the middle of the course. And so it'd be fun to talk about the next few weeks leading up to that, like what folks are going to do on their own to mark this day. And then we have week 8, which is returning the vessel, at after death choices for our body and our spirit, the vigil and funeral options, disposition of the physical body sort of forms. So we have sort of the both and a lot of this is new for people, like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know these options. And so there's a lot to think about. There may be some things to research. Caring for the dead is, what does it look like to die? What does it feel like to die? What are those moments leading to death? What are some traditions from our past that can inform us about death? What does it look like to care for our own at death, whether that's a little bit or a lot? We've got some death doulas in here that can probably really offer a lot there. The Blessed Giveaway, we have financial considerations here and strategies for stuff. What do we do with all of the things we've accumulated in the bank account and in the garage throughout our lives? And here's where we also talk about caring for pets. I do have a guest speaker for that week that's a lawyer. And so because it's important to think about these financial considerations from a big picture level, like what does it all mean? Building a death literate community, and you know, this is where we're going to do some working with grief, shock, and fear, because really we aren't meant to feel those things alone. Those are meant to be embedded in community. So there's lots to say about building community. And then week 11, week 8, 9, 10, 11. I have it a little off on my Blessed Giveaway, Death Literate Community. Well, I have bucket lists, legacies, and last wishes. So this has just come through in the last few weeks. How do we prioritize life? How do we follow our yes? How do we look at internal and external lists? And then I have this really exciting week on week 13, which is what happens after we die. And this is going to be a bit of a co-creation of what we might want to do with this week, but we'll know each other so much better by then. And then if we have a solstice celebration, which is optional, where we can really celebrate our transformation, and you know, people may take on projects throughout this time together. I may want to bring them, you know, my hope is that some of us will take on archetypal projects and sort of present, like, what have you worked with in terms of a death archetype? Any questions on that schedule? The fabulous schedule. Okay. All right, I'm going to keep going then. You know, this page, which is Queen of Death, I'll put it in the chat. This is a private page for us, and it's in your email. It's but you want to bookmark this page, and I'm gonna stop sharing here so I can actually go to the actual page and show you the what fors here. This is the page you want to like have on your little bookmark bar, or something that you can have access to each week. Let me share my screen in a different way. Share my whole screen. Okay. You're just seeing yourselves right now, but okay. So this is the page. It's queenofdeath.org and it's resources. And this is a private link for all of us in the 13-week program. And you'll see as I scroll down, there's week 1, week 2, week 3, all the weeks are here. And then over here on the right, there is little toggles. And what that is, there's a little plus sign right there, and it toggles down this week's to-dos, this week's resources, and this week's content, where we're going to have a link to the recordings, the slide, and the chat. And that's going to be true for each and every week. And Anna and I, it'll probably take us, so by the time we end on Tuesday afternoon, it'll take us probably until Wednesday morning sometime to get all of that in the space, but you will have full access to that. So you want to bookmark that webpage. One more practicals thing I think I'll do, and then we can feel into what's happening. Okay. So one question that I often get is like, how do I organize all of this stuff? Brenda, who's here in the course for a second time, is probably the most organized person I've ever worked with. So Brenda might want to share with us what she's done. I have a little simple printable checklist of all the things that we're going to be working through, but it's a lot for those of us who are more organized or less organized. Here's a way, you know, a couple of ideas: keeping a folder and a notebook. I personally like to keep my external preparation for death, sort of businessy, paperworky stuff, sort of separate from my mystical notebook, where I'm like doing my meditations or my contemplations or my writings, but that's completely up to you. So my little end of life checklist is available to you. You probably saw that in the preliminaries page. There's also something called the Knox box, which folks in my last class were like, why didn't you tell us about that sooner? So I wanted to tell you about it sooner. It stands for Next of Kin, NOK, Knox box, and it's like a really well organized with different color tabs, all kinds of little things where you can put each and every part of your paperwork. And I reached out to them and I said, listen, I have a group going through a program. There's, 30 plus of us. And they were like, well, here's a discount code. So the discount code is fall 15. And if you go to Knoxbox and you put that code in, it seems like it'll give you 15% off. If it doesn't work, let me know and I can bug them again. And you may or may not be drawn to the Knoxbox. I haven't used it. I actually pitched them to send me one so I could sort of play with it and see if I could recommend it. And they never did. So I just do it my own way. And Brenda, do you care? I don't want to put you on the spot if you don't want to share, but you are the queen of the organization. Do you want to share anything about your process? Where is she?
Me?
You? You?
So let me just, yeah. So I do have a knockbox, which is actually even more organized than what I used to have. And whoops, it's just a box with a bunch of files in it, which is amazing because it allows you to kind of go back and forth at your own pace on what parts that you want to work with. So once you actually set up the files, and let's say you want to work on, I don't know, your advanced directive or something this week. Well, you just pull that out of the box and everything that you've done so far is in there. And you just work on that. And then when you're done, you just put it back. So I like it because there's so much involved with, I'm repeating this course because there's just so much involved as far as the paperwork side and the organization side and maybe you want to meet with your family and then you take notes and you want to follow up on things. Well, you can just put that in that section of the file box. So I really like the Knockbox. I would highly recommend it, but you can make your own too. It's just a file box,
It's a box and it's got dividers and the nice thing about the Knox box is they have these pre-printed dividers and nice colors and all of that. So the question is like, are you on a budget? Make one yourself. And if you're not, then great, get one. That's a great recommendation. Thank
And there's
you.
like Ziploc bags that you can put extra copies of car keys and house keys. And so it's that organized. It's right down to and it's in a fireproof box if you get the fireproof box, which is nice too. So yeah, so I thought I was organized, but now I'm like at a deeper level of organized. So now I'm ready to just go there with the deeper dive, you know.
I thought I was organized. Yeah, she had like notebook and what you had those plastic slidey things and
Yep.
like she had the whole nine going.
So, but yeah, but now, and like I said, you can just, the idea is to, sometimes I feel like, so I do this time of year, I start writing little gratitude notes to people along my life's journey. And even if they've passed, or even if, and so in the folder, I actually have the blank little note cards kind of thing. So sometimes I feel like, well, I'm just going to get that out and do a couple of those or something. So it's just nice to work on what you feel like working on at that moment. So.
And so are those gratitude cards things you'll have in the Knox box? So when you die, people will be like, oh my God, here's a love note from Brenda.
No, those are going to be, yes, those are going to be in a special envelope and not too much about me, but that's going to be a part of the bonfire at the dinner that they're going to do to celebrate my life. And with all my journals and notebooks and all these cards, those are all going to go into the bonfire. Those are not to be read. Those are between me and my soul and the other person's soul. It's not about actually physically sharing that, but yeah, so it's just this course. The nice thing about having that kind of organization for that paper and the keys and all that stuff is that you can sort of set that aside and go to your inner process and sit with, well, what's going on with the spiritual part and things like that. So otherwise you can get overwhelmed with all of the stuff, all of the practical, all of the paperwork and the legal. So for me, it allows me just to put that cover on the box and just set it aside. And then, okay, I'm going to sit and meditate and do some inner work kind of thing. So for me, it was very helpful for that too, to have that kind of organization.
Brenda, thank you so much for sharing. That was really great to hear. Thank you.
Anytime. Thanks.
Yeah, Brenda's a great resource. Something was on the. Yeah, I wanted to say about there's this book that I know about. I didn't read. I listened to a podcast on it. It's called The Master and His Emissary, and it's talking about the right brain and the left brain. And what Brenda's referring to there, really love, and I want to highlight that if we're talking about the caduceus and these snakes of the practical and mystical, what we actually want at the end of our lives is the mystical to be in charge. It's what we actually want, right? And so that's the right brain. And in our modern culture, we get all sort of left-brained about everything. We want to control it. We want to fix it. We want to strategize about it. We want to plan for it. And that's supposed to be the emissary. The left brain is supposed to be the one that follows the orders from the visionary self. And so I love that Brenda brought that up, which is we want to be done with all of that stuff so that our dream time self, whatever we want to call it, our soul self, our divine self, our essence, can be in charge. And ideally, we want to live our lives that way. Ideally, we want to have our visionary, highest possible self guiding our lives. So thank you for bringing that up. That was a really great point. I'm wanting to move to buddies and then have you all do breakout rooms. And it's going to be a little bit of chaos for a little while, but I see you, Linny. Did you have something on what we've already been talking about?
I did. I wanted to say about the knock boxes that there's different versions. You can buy a light box. It doesn't have to be the whole expensive kit. They really have maybe, I don't know, 7 maybe different versions of the whole thing.
So they have some more affordable and then some more
Yep.
luxury ones.
They
Okay.
do. Yeah.
Okay, good to know. Well, I'm hearing some really strong recommendations of it. I didn't use it. My brain works a little differently and I have everything in Google Drive and whatever, but check it out. Check out their website. NOKBOX. And then fall 15 is your discount code. Any more on any of those practicals? Okay. I loved the pre-survey folks who responded. I think I've gotten 20 responses and I just can't tell you how much joy I had in my heart, particularly for these 15 questions. Like I was laughing, I was crying, I was like, oh my God, these are amazing. And I want you to get a chance to share intentions with each other. But I also wanting to do this buddy thing, and it's going to take us a little bit of time to coordinate that. And Damon Sean is going to be our multidimensional puzzle creator of the breakout rooms. And so part of what I wanted to acknowledge is that many people asked me in the pre-surveys, like, hey, I'm here with a friend, but it would, or a partner or a family member, but maybe it would be better for me to have a buddy that's not that person, which I thought was a really astute question. And I wanted to sort of open that conversation a little bit. And my initial response to that, I will say, is, do what feels best for you first and foremost. And I actually think I agree with people when they're like thinking to have a different buddy than their family member, because this will allow you to do both. It'll allow you to have a buddy that's not your person and you can still talk to your person. Does that make sense? Okay, great. And plenty of people here are not, they're just here by themselves and they just want to be randomly assigned a buddy, which is great. Anybody have a different perspective on that, or have further questions about whether they should be with their person?
I have a quick question.
Satya, yeah, go ahead.
So I signed up with a friend of mine who's for my death doula course. That we rarely get to speak, so we love the idea of budding. However, she's not here, and I'm not sure if she's going to be able to show up as much as I will. So, I definitely want to set myself up for success around that. So yeah, just curious what you think.
Yeah, it seems to me like, people can do, there's a primary commitment to a buddy, and you can still get together with that person and have conversations and share about the class, and it can be a separate relationship or a secondary buddy, or so you don't have to limit yourself. But with the buddy system, to just give you a little bit of context for this, it's a friend from this class who will help with supporting. You'll support each other. You'll have some accountability with each other. So you'll share your intentions, not only today, but through the weeks. And that person is going to help you remember and be accountable to the things that you say you want to do. It's someone to share reality with, since you probably are going to go out into the world and not have this much death literacy in your world, except for those of you in death doula school, which is like right on. That's awesome. And it's basically a friend to have that is anchoring you in this work. And so in your case, Satya, when I'm hearing your concern, I would say pick someone who's here, see how that goes. We can also shuffle buddies around if something's not working. Like one of you may come and say, this particular personality dynamic isn't working for me, or my buddy's not showing up. And then we might do some shuffles in some weeks. It's very synergistic how the randomness works, and people often end up in really dynamic relationships. That was true for you, Brenda, I think last time too. Like the random, whatever intelligence is happening really does seem to synergize. But that doesn't mean if you're struggling, you shouldn't reach back out to me and, try to change something if it's not working. Great. So we have Brenda and Becky L who want to be together. Is that still true for you two? Okay.
Yes, that's true.
Great. And then everybody else was more or less random, if that's true for you, Satya. And then Sarah and Dara were the only other two that I had a question about. Do you have an input on that, Dara? Or Sarah?
I mean, my mom and I are gonna talk either way, is how I see it. So I'm fine having a different buddy if she is.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like it will be extra support for you all. Does that feel okay, Dara?
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
great.
fine.
So we have mama and daughter here, Dara and Sarah. I just want to shout out to y'all. So awesome. So awesome. Okay, Damon Sean, I think with only the exceptions of Brenda and Becky L, anybody else have a request? Maria.
My only reminder is that I'm going to be gone, and you talked about
Thank you.
making a threesome. And I'm very committed to being here when I know I have committed to it, but I have pre-existing commitments. So
Yeah, so Maria is going to be gone the month of November, so I had her sort of out, and maybe as a backup, maybe you can be a partner with someone who either isn't here today, or there could be a group that would be willing to have a threesome, and then have Maria drop out for November, and then back in December, like towards the very end.
yes.
Okay. Great. Why don't we leave James? Okay, James and Hannah, you're thinking to be buddies. Great to know. We could put you in a room together and you can talk about it a little more. And then we'll leave Maria.
Maria, you got it.
Maria, I did it. Maria. Out, and then we can maybe, does anybody have you probably don't even know yet if you're willing to have a third person in your group. So let's just leave her in a separate room, and then we'll see how the numbers shake out. How's that going, Damon Sean? You're unmuted, love.
Yeah, so we're leaving Maria out for now, and Becky, Elle, and Carla together, Hannah and James together.
Becky L and Brenda.
And Brenda?
Brenda.
Okay.
Becky L and Brenda, and then James and Hannah. And so take your time, Damon Sean, it's fine. I can yak for a little while longer. One of the really important things to do when you get in a room together is exchange contact information. Phone numbers, emails, how you prefer. We are graced with the Beckys here. Love you, Beckys. We have 3 Beckys. Brenda, did you have something you need to say?
There are 2 Becky L's.
No, it isn't true. It can't be
It's
true.
true.
It can't
It's
be
true.
true.
It is true.
I usually put Becky G next to mine. That's easier. That's G is my maiden name, Gooding. So
I
All
thought
right.
it was, wait, is this
So,
true?
yeah, let's start over for a moment, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So I had a request from Carla J to be with Becky L, Rachel Carlson. Is that still true?
Oh, well, the three of us could be together if we needed that.
Okay.
I'm
I
hearing.
didn't realize there was a request but that would be wonderful if the three of us could do that together.
So Carla, Becky L, and Brenda Freeman, is that who's speaking? Is
Yeah.
that who we're,
that would be-
okay,
Thank you.
okay,
Yeah, threesome sounds great to me.
okay, great. So we got that, and then we have Hannah and James. The rest will go relatively quickly, and no one else is being paired up right now, and except Maria, we're holding out for
We're
now.
holding her in her own room for the
Great.
moment. Let's see how everything lines up, and then we may pair her with someone.
Perfect.
Thank you so much for doing that.
Yeah, of course.
Complex work. Okay.
Can
so-
you pair me and Dave Whirlinger together? With Becky, GL, and Dave.
Okay, I'm gonna need all requests up front first. So if we're gonna do the request thing, I need to go ahead and have all requests first before I start assigning the random ones. So I'm happy to do that, but we gotta do that first. Because then it gets really complicated to try to unassign. So who else is making a request? Who was it that just spoke
Becky
up?
Lasco.
Becky Lascodi and
Uh-huh.
David.
Okay, great. Let me see, Becky and so Dave Whirlinger, is that the Dave we're speaking to?
Yes.
Okay, got it. Any other requests? Anybody who knows they want to be partnered with anyone? Going once? Going twice? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead then and keep assigning the random
Okay, great.
connections.
So when you go into your breakout rooms, and in addition to sharing contact information, another prompt is how often you'd like to connect and what are the kinds of things you're wanting support from each other, right? And then also if you have your intentions written and nearby, I'd love for you to share those. They are precious, and both the sort of now I'm thinking of yang and yin of the intentions, which is how do you want to be changed, and the 15 questions, which is just this sort of like potpourri of like what's on my heart about this. I loved the 15 questions so much.
Okay, I have everyone but Maria assigned.
Okay.
And she's outstanding, so we can put her as a third with another group. There's no other single at this point, since we had another threesome with Becky and Brenda and Carla.
And do you have yourself in a room?
Oh, good question. No, I didn't see my name or yours or Anna's in the list. Let me see here. Yeah, we're not listed in the list.
Okay, great.
Okay. But I think I can. Maybe once we create them, I can join a room with Maria.
Yeah.
How's that?
That sounds great.
Okay, awesome.
And so
And I will
how last time didn't seem like quite enough time. Do you feel that 15 minutes is enough time? Can we do it in 15? Okay. Wonderful. So you'll have to set that time in the breakout room too. Damon Sean set it for 14 minutes and then there'll be a 1-minute callback.
Okay, so 15 minutes total.
All right, beloveds. See you
All right.
see you on the other side.
There we go.
You got cut off.
We got cut off.
Yeah, we got cut off too. But we exchanged phone numbers and the email address.
Great.
And then found out where each of us lives.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, there's 5 folks that aren't here right now, so they're gonna get paired up. And it sounds like for right now, Dara and Maria can be, and Damon Sean, if you want, can be sort of de facto, or however you say, buddies for now. And then maybe we have a third person join Dara and Maria. Does that seem reasonable?
Seems very reasonable. Although it was very comfortable and nice with the three of us as well.
Okay, well, maybe
So-
if Damon Sean wants to stay in that group,
Right.
then we'll just do something else with another group. That's great.
Thank you.
Do we need a pause break or a little bathroom break before, or can we keep going? We have about 20 more minutes together. Where are folks at? Maybe just a pause?
I can keep going if we only have 20 minutes.
Okay, great. So let's just
Yeah, I'll
take-
keep going, it's fine.
Great. Let's just take a pause, look away, shake something out. Take a breath. Feel your body. Feel your fascia. I was just looking over my notes to see what else. I'd love a couple of shares of intentions. Maybe someone who hasn't chimed in yet today, who has an intention that feels alive for them, either the Riverbank version of like, this is how I want to be changed, or a sampling of your 15 questions. Love to have voices spoken into the bigger group.
I can speak up. Is there space for Becky GL to speak up?
Yes, Becky GL.
I was sharing with my new buddy Dave that a few months ago, I was processing, I don't know exactly what, but a new idea came into my mind that maybe instead of bossing around my body and telling myself, okay, now you can eat this, and now you need to go take a walk, and now you need to do this and that, that I could be a partner with my body. So it feels like a natural segue into the work that you're going to do with us to really move into more embodiment. And I'm really looking forward to that through this process.
Yeah. I would love to take a little poll of how many of us are learning to not boss around our bodies, but listen to our bodies. Can you look around and see those hands, Becky?
Yeah, very much.
Pretty much. Yeah. How about that partnership? Yeah. Anyone else want to share?
I'll share some of my questions.
Sure.
How do I get people to talk about death? How do I introduce the topic in conversation over dinner? How do I say to people, you're going to die? Why is death so uncomfortable for people to talk about? I'd like to understand that better. How do I express my worldview in a much bigger context? How do I bring up religion and other fairy tales? What is after death? Where do I go? What's the difference between spirit and body? And I can go on. I've got loads of questions.
I love them so much. I love them so much. Thank you for sharing those. I'm so tickled. I love the inquiry process. It just makes me feel so alive. Anybody else want to share?
I'd be curious too. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
My connection?
Mm-hmm.
Hi. Well, yeah, my experience has been a little bit. I realize I'm been overly comfortable with death. Between I was in emergency medicine for many years and ended up having some elder care clients later on that ended up actually sitting with them as they died. And I've just gotten really comfortable. And then COVID hit, and then I realized I turn around, feel like I'm so comfortable with death, I'm really uncomfortable with life. Like things about life just terrify me and like feel overwhelming. I just not interested anymore. I'm just curious about that reversal. I mean, if we think about life and death being two sides of the same thing. So
Wow. That's really profound. Anybody else resonate with that? Wow. Yeah, there's about 5 or 6 hands. I think, I don't know how to explain that. I mean, what sort of bubbles in my heart is like some of us are born death walkers and we don't feel as comfortable in the life part. And part of the
I'd love to
reason
hear more about that.
part of the reason we get to be here is because we got to do the life part.
Man.
I love that. Thank you. I love that inquiry so much. Yeah.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm. All right. Gonna do a little share a couple last things and then we can just be together again and all right. Okay, so here's some integration and tasks, aka homework that you could take on if you so desired. If you felt inspired and excited about fascia, you could bring that into your meditation or your contemplation or your awe-inspiring experience of the body. You could connect with your buddy for sure. Want to have a conversation. And I think that you all probably have plenty to talk about, but if you are feeling like you need prompts with the buddy, just use whatever has come up this week as your prompts. Setting up your altar, thinking about your photos of your beloved dead, your ancestors, that's another potential task. Consider your organizational systems. And then for next week, we're going to be getting into the paperwork components. And so those pieces of printing the checklist and the 5 wishes document are a good place to start for next week. And then if you also want to think ahead, that we're going to be doing healthcare agent, which is who do you want supporting you during the dying process? If you get that opportunity, if you don't die suddenly, if you're walking towards death and you have an opportunity to have folks make decisions for you when you can't, who in your life do you imagine wanting to be there for you? So those are some considerations for next week. Any other suggestions for integration tasks for next week or for this coming week? Alan, did you have some thoughts?
Not a thought, but a question or / request is now on hand.
Yeah.
I don't have a way to get printed materials simply because I'm in a van. For those materials, would you have them in an electronic form that I can access?
The 5 wishes document.
Readily available, I think, online.
Yeah, you can do it on their website online, but I only have a PDF. If you have a Adobe Acrobat where you can sort of get in and like manipulate text and stuff in Adobe Acrobat, you can use that. You can look at it on the screen and then you're probably going to want a printed copy or do it through their website. is my guess. And I can talk to you about that separately. Why don't you and I connect up?
That's, yes, thank you. That's all.
Yep. Becky H.
I was just going to make the quick comment that actually Hannah put in the comments is Staples or one of the office supply places, you can send them a file and they'll print it for, you know, cents per page. So just FYI.
Yeah, you can even email it to them if
Mhm.
you don't have a little jump drive or something. Great. Thank you both. Okay. I wanted to take a few minutes to visit the principles, which some of you, many of you, most of you may have watched the little video that I did, and I'm just wanting to review them because they're so precious and important and foundational to everything we're doing here. And I won't go into great detail, but I do want to touch on them. So self-care. You are really at choice about how you want to show up, how you are showing up, exactly how you are showing up as a contribution to the whole. And that means if you have to come late, or if you have to leave early, or if you have to lay down and rest while we're in class, or if you need to keep your screen off, it's all welcome. Just come and go with respect and care, and you know, keep the group in your heart, and in what you need for yourself is of utmost importance. So roll around on the floor if you need to, get up and stretch, all of those pieces. All parts are welcome. We spoke about that already today. We're going to find a way to hold it all. I don't know what that way is, but we will do it. Being together is a really magical portal, and we are in the human soup here, and we can, our hearts are big enough to hold it all. Embodiment, we've talked a lot about today. You know, death brings up a lot of material for people, and sometimes it's hard material, but honestly, sometimes it actually brings up energy because of a topic that we've had to push down and avoid and deny gets freed up, and we actually might free up a bunch of life force. So that may happen also. So be present with yourself as much as possible, integrate as much as possible, reach out to your friends and buddies. Courting the mystery. Everything here has a practical application, but it's also true that we're going to be tapping into expansive states of understanding and consciousness with this work. And that's juicy and fun in many ways, and might also be scary and hard. But part of this journey is the mystery. The group field, this is very exciting, and we are creating an intelligent field in the seen and unseen realms, and we can rest and regulate and learn to trust it. And it's part of what's going to support us through this journey. Death positivity is my orientation. We are rewiring, repatterning our nervous systems, our fascia systems towards that death is a teacher, death is a gift. That is the invitation, and away from what our culture tells us, which is death is death. So really all we need, the biggest quality we need for this is curiosity, and you're all here, so you all have that. And then integration, we've also talked a bunch. Conversations, contemplations, dreams, subconscious processing, honoring the different styles of learning. Any questions on the principles? Okay, I have last embodiment piece for you and a quote, and then we'll spend the last few minutes just being with each other, seeing what's here. I wanted to circle back to the fascia component, which is this other part of the mind-blowing piece of how we are designed to mirror the cosmos or the divine. This is a painting from Alex Grey. Some of you may know Alex Grey. He does these incredible works of art that represent sort of spirit and matter in marriage. And the ancients talk a lot about how we are made of light, and how our radiance emerges from our cells, from our photons, from our DNA. And this is a grid pattern, or the net or the web that is in all of the cosmos. It's this invisible net. In Tantra lineage is it's called Indra's net, and or the universal web. And the fascia that's in us mirrors the cosmic net, right? And according to the Vedic traditions, the ancient Hindu traditions, the Egyptian traditions, this is sort of what happened at the beginning. Some interpretations of the Bible it can be translated to, in the beginning there was the net. So that's a way to connect back to the fascia. And I'm going to just end my slides with a beautiful quote by Andrea Gibson. Andrea Gibson is a modern day queer poet. She is my favorite right now. And this is an article she wrote on Substack called The Life-Giving Benefits of Befriending Our Mortality. And her poem goes like this. At the end of our lives, don't we want to say we celebrated the holiday of having bodies? Don't we want to know we lived like we never forgot we were born astonished and we never intended to grow out of our awe? Awe is the most powerful medicine in the world. I have never felt awe and shame at the same time. Awe and loneliness at the same time. Awe and judgment at the same time. And nothing wakes us to awe more than life's brevity, which is to say, forming an intimate relationship with our mortality could not only save us, it could save our world. If you don't believe me, tell me the last time you saw anything bite with its jaw dropped. I know the culture we live in. I know mortality isn't small talk, but I wish it was, because it is the seed of connection, the seed of true healing, and the seed of love. Mind-blowing Andrea Gibson. Looking at all your lovely faces. Taking a moment to just be in the body and see you all. Any last comments?
Wow.
Great to have you, Satya.
Oh, I'm so thrilled to be here. Thank you so much.
There's several of us Tantra siblings here on this call that have been on the Tantra journey. Satya's one, and Hannah and Lumen will be here next time, and my Tantra brothers and sisters. Can y'all feel the group field? Can you feel it in your heart? That's where I feel it. It's velvety and rich. Hannah, you're my wingman. Poltergeist. I was in Peru of my birthday this year, and with Sarah Deva, who's here, and we found a little, can everyone see this? My little stuffed condor. It was really hard to find because everyone really loves stuffed llamas, and it's like all the rage, you know, and like all the cutesy little things. But my beautiful partner, Damon Sean, found me a stuffed condor. Aren't you jealous? I talk about condors some more. Well, I can tell you a little bit. Another word for Tantra or Tantrika in Nepal, and in some of those nearby places is Dakini. And it's the word means the sky dweller. And it's sort of implied when it's in a human that it's a sort of mitigating between the incarnation and the eternal. And the name that they call the vultures, the condors, particularly when they put the bodies in sky burial, is they call these vultures and condors dakinis. And because what they do is they come and they take the bodies and they eat them, and then they're flying up to the heavens. They're flying to the spirit world. So they're the actual incarnated versions of the mitigation between the body and the spirit. They're actually taking it in and then flying the spirit to the upper worlds in the shamanic traditions. So the vulture and the condor, very endangered around the world, but they're sacred animals to this life process. Bye, Linda. I am happy to stay for a little bit and converse, but we're officially closed, and we'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maria.
Can I ask you a question before we leave? Lee?
Sure, I'm here for a few minutes. Yeah.
You know the
Thank
five wishes. Can I get a copy of it electronically so that I could fill in? How do I do that?
You go to their site.
I go to the Five Wishes website.
They have a version there where you can fill it in electronically, and then you'll still need to print it. You can print it as a PDF and have it be a digital version, or you can print it on a printer. But you can do that on their site. They won't store it for you, like they're not a sort of like storage place, but that gives you an opportunity to type it in, and then you'll have it.
Okay. Then can I do that with the material you've given us?
No. Unfortunately, I don't have a portal like that. That sort of takes a big sort of a programming back end. Most of the stuff that I am giving you all is going to be more or less printed, although some of the documents I have you can pull into Word and adjust there.
Okay.
But that might be complicated too, for certain people, like how to pull it into Word and how to, and then how to edit. And
Yeah.
it's not a perfect system for sure.
Okay. Okay, good. Well, thanks, Lee. I'm looking forward to the course. It's going to be good.
Becky L.
Lee, is it your intention that we actually start to fill those documents in this week before coming to the next class?
No, we're going to review them together next week. It's a lot. The healthcare agent is the one that packs the biggest wallop for people, because it right smack at wish one confronts like, oh my God, who do I trust? Who do I want to, ask to walk with me in this time of my life where I may need that? And it's very complex. We have to talk about, how to talk to loved ones and how to make the best decision. And death care teams, it's like the most challenging of the 5 wishes from my perspective, because it involves so much of the external world. Yeah, Brenda.
Thank you. Well, first of all, gratitude for extending this course and offering it again. And I just am really grateful. And wondering, I did send you a link to a YouTube video.
Oh yeah.
And it's probably one of the best videos of like, why do we do preparation? You know, what does it mean to do everything and not have your wishes, you know, put out there? And I think it's a nice, it's a pretty balanced, it's not just shocking, but there's also some balance as far as, you don't have to just be a DNR. You can be a do not resuscitate, or you can be a resuscitate until it's clear that this is not going to result in my, you know, getting my vibrant life back, and then do this, and this at that point, that kind of thing. So for me, it really gives a clarification of what can be between DNR and do everything.
I love that. Yeah, these shades of gray. That's great. Thank you for reminding me about that. When you sent it, I was like, oh my God, if Brenda sent this, I want to watch it. And then of course, like the
Yeah.
sea of, you know.
And it's
all the-
short enough that I think it would be, I mean, I'm a little worried about people being traumatized by it, but then again, that's what happens when you drop on the street and people start CPR and no one knows that you're a DNR. So that's something that maybe we could even watch all together and then offer support and, you know, and kind of process what that really means when you say do everything.
Yeah, and so this would be applicable, it sounds like, more to Wish 2. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. So then I can have a chance to watch it and then can give that caveat, and then people can be at choice about whether they want to see that. But I think you're right. Like the system can be incredibly violent, as can death be violent. And so, you know, these things are important to know. Like I just come back again and again to like, when you're at choice, regardless of what's happening, you can more or less navigate it when you're at choice. When you're not at choice, that's when the trauma, you know, really gets concretized in the body, is when we're not at choice. And so knowing what possibilities can happen, I think that's great. Thank you, Brenda.
Yeah, so it allows people to really put some very detailed instruction in your advanced directives. So, all right, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Goodbye. I'm going to leave.
Jeff. Anybody else? Hi, Madison. You didn't have much to say today. It's lovely to see you.
Thanks for all of this.
You might be the youngest of the group.
Maybe.
Maybe. It's great. I love seeing young people at end of life classes. It's you know, you're a death walker when you're when you're a young person and you're like, let's do this. Does that resonate for you? Do you identify as a death walker?
I don't know at this point, but yeah, I've just I haven't experienced much death in my kind of close circle, although I have had many dreams of dying. I don't know. Yeah. I'm just intrigued, and
You're on a journey.
here I am.
Totally. It's great.
Thank you.
Bye, Becky L.
Bye.
Bye, Madison. Bye, Becky H. Hi, Linda. Okay, I think I can stop recording.